Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're on Gran Turismo Sport and we've got highlights of the FIA Nations race at Catalunya in Group 3. So this was the final slot of the day. We decided to change car on the final slot. Had no real practice with the Porsche but decided to go with it. We've been practicing with the Ford GT, just wasn't able to hook up the lap in qualifying well enough with that. Managed to put myself in P4 with the first attempt with the Porsche and it wasn't even a very good lap. So I think the evidence was there that I should have went with Porsche from the start. The reason we didn't go with it was because the standing start isn't quite as strong as a lot of other cars. But a lot of other people were picking cars that were a bit better with the race, so we decided to go with it for this race. Starting from P4, you can see I actually got a reasonably okay start. Definitely better than the Mazda and the GTR, driven by FIA there. So going into turn 1, we decided to go to the right of Rick here. We were looking to make a move. And then we saw Kelsey going in the mirror. He decided to give him space. He decided to brake very late. He was actually on the grass and goes through everyone. Misses his braking massively. And we pick up a 6-second penalty. I can tell you now, looking, you can see on the screen now, I was really not happy about this. It was a bit of a silly move by Kelsey, but I think he knows that. He made the mistake. He decided to try and shove it down the inside there, and it was never going to work. He knows he made the mistake there, so people make mistakes. We were still obviously very annoyed during the race because, again, the penalty system on Gran Turismo Sport, penalising the drivers that do not need penalising. A 6-second penalty for just basically taking it easy into turn 1. Just a really daft situation we've got in this game. However, not much we could do about it once we got that penalty. We're going to have to take that. And this race pretty much ruined. I think we had a good chance in this race because once I get wound up, I tend to drive more aggressively anyway, and I tend to kill the tyres a bit. Once I'm in a rhythm, I can look after tyres, but that really did annoy me, that penalty. And from this stage onwards, it was just all about just trying to regain a rhythm once we take that penalty and see where it puts us. The high chances now we're going to be behind a lot of cars, as you see, all the traffic going through, and this is not what you want. All this is going to do is kill your tyres as you try and get back past drivers. You can see nearly all the way down to P10. Luckily just got ourselves into P9 and we're now behind the Mercedes of Thomas in front and another car in front of him. I think that is Nick. I think these two drivers in front of us, to make things even worse at this stage, we're on the hard tyre. While we're on the medium tyre, we should be putting in very fast lap times during this early stint, which I think if we wouldn't have been the 6-second penalty, we would have been in nice clean air in the slipstream with Tierney. Probably should have been able to stay in that slipstream as well without much issue with the tyre wear advantage of the Porsche. But you can see now we're stuck behind P8 with a tyre disadvantage, and we've got to try and find our way past. And especially this is going to be really difficult because the car in front is picking up the slipstream with the car in front of them. Mercedes is very strong in the slipstream, so it's very hard for the Porsche to keep pace on the straights. We can see we've got way more grip in the corners. You can see the advantage of the tyres through these corners. You can see again on acceleration there. At this stage I wasn't aware that they were on the harder tyre. I just thought that that was the advantage of the Porsche through the corners, but it was pretty clear during the braking phases and the mid-apex speed that they're probably going to be on the harder tyres. You can see again catching up massively on the apex of the corner, just not able to do anything with the better tyre on at this stage of the race. And this is again all been caused by Gran Turismo's penalty system again failing again, and that is a problem. That is a big problem, I think, at the moment with this game. This is one of the reasons why we took a little break, had a little game on Assetto Corsa to try and refresh it up a bit, and it really does highlight the issue that is wrong with this game at the moment in terms of if they're going to launch an FIA season with the current penalty system, then I think a lot of people are just not going to put the time in as much. It's one of them, do you waste hours of practice to get screwed over by a game that can't get the penalty system right? That is where the issue is going to come in for this game, I think, at the moment. But we'll see how it goes. Polifoni hopefully will listen, and hopefully at some point in their life will get it right with the penalty system. At the moment I hold very little faith for that, but we'll see how it goes as we now work our way towards the end of lap 2. Trying to find a way past. You can see we've got so much advantage over pace, but we can't actually do much about it as they both go in the pits. This is going to free us up a little bit now as they're diving off into the pits on the harder tyre, and they were obviously on that harder tyre, which shows how much time we lost. As look at the lap times, a 46.7, really off pace for our first lap on the hard tyre. On the medium tyre. This is going to really show you now as we fast forward lap 3. The time lost, you can see obviously even with the tyre wear developing through the race, a lap later you can see how much faster we're going on the Delta. We're up on every sector. and let's see what the lap time is as we come to the end of the lap. We go over the lap with a 1 minute, I think it's a 1 minute 45.0. Let's have a little look now. So yeah, a 45.0 really does show you and highlight to you just how much time. We probably lost about 2 seconds because we would have been faster on lap 2. So yeah, we lost probably about 1.7 to 2 seconds added on to that penalty as well. So the penalty actually cost us more in general, which is a big shame, as we're now behind Matty in P6, who I think also was possibly on the hard tyre, going for a one-stop strategy but starting on the hard tyre. So a different strategy that he's got there. It looks like it's worked out well with the chaos at the start, because at this phase now, coming up to like lap 4 or 5, the hard tyre should start equaling out slightly with the softer tyre, with the medium tyre. And you've obviously got people that would have pitted, that you're going to have battles with people that pitted on lap 2 and 3 from the hard tyre to go for them 2 soft stints at the end. This is where the race is going to be very difficult towards the end, but we'll try our best now to try and get some speed out of these medium tyres as we follow behind Matty. We have a slight tyre advantage in terms of grip, but I think the tyre wear is starting to fade off already. You can see with this high tyre wear that was on for this race, I think the soft tyres could do 7 laps. They started to fade around the 5th lap as we're approaching the end of the 4th lap. So the tyre fatigue is starting to see. You can see it on the telemetry. The left-hand tyres, the rear left, the front left, is starting to fade a little bit, but the Porsche was definitely a much better car in race trim than the Ford that we tried. The Porsche was just able to keep much more pace with worn tyres, as we're now in that slipstream of Matty. But again, finding it very hard to actually get an overtake done with the Porsche. This was the issue with this car, and this was why I was quite wound up with what happened at the start, because we would have been in a very good position going in P2 with no real worries about cars behind, because I think we would have been on the medium tyre, been able to put solid laps in and build that gap up that would have been vital to then put the hard tyres on towards the end. But you can see at this stage we're now stuck behind another car on hard tyres. Slightly more grip at the moment through the corners, but this is going to fade off as the tyres wear more and more and more. As you see Matty up ahead, trying to keep it nice and smooth, doing a good job in that Lexus, I think he's in the Mazda, sorry, driving through and just keeping reasonably good pace. You can see there Mazda was actually a very good car for this track in race pace. It was probably the strongest car, or one of the strongest cars for race pace. However, the standing start was the reason why a lot of people wanted to avoid it, because if you qualified in the top 3, you'd probably be down to P6 or 7 into turn 1, because it just had no acceleration off the standing start. So that was a reason why some people were avoiding it. But as you can see from Matty, I think what he decided to do was probably the best strategy with that car. Is you're going to lose places anyway. Put the hard tyres on the first stint, do a longer stint at the end on the medium tyres, and be much faster at the end of the race. As you can see, we're going to go for that move up the inside. Matty's not going to fight it too much. That was probably because he was on the hard tyres at that stage, and maybe thought he could get some slipstream advantage from being behind the Porsche at this stage. He's probably going to go for an early pit stop as well and extend his stint on the last stint once the fuel had come down a bit, because fuel was no issue for this race. It was completely flat out. As you see, we've got the battle in front of us there between P3, 4 and 5. The podium battle just up ahead. I think Fire's up there as well. Obviously, I think Fire had done the hard tyre, possibly doing the hard tyre on the first stint as well. I'm not 100% sure about that. But yeah, again, that penalty system really has screwed us over quite badly in this race. You can see how much further up the track we would have been, and in a really good position. But we're going to see if we can get anything out of this as we fast forward the action again up until we get closer to the pit stop phase. As we come to the end of lap 5, you can see going through these really technical sections, you can start seeing now that Matty behind us on them hard tyres is starting to look a little bit stronger as we look into, as Matty goes into the pits here. You see on the hard tyre there on lap 5, he's going to go for a long stint now, get a massive undercut on the mediums, and then he'll have a pace advantage for a few laps anyway over the hard tyres. So looking like quite a good strategy for Matty there to get himself into the top 3 in this race. Maybe that's what we should have done on the hard tyres, but then we could have been in an even worse situation with the dive bomb into turn 1. Not that it was deliberate by Calster. I think he just got his tyres on the grass and just outbraked himself and missed the braking point, and then there was no return once he was entering into the corner with no brakes. But up into P3, people have pitted early. I think this could work out good, or it could work out bad. This is the risk I took going for the 7 laps on the softer tyre, on the medium tyres, because the pace wasn't terrible. However, I think because we were having to drive that early stint so aggressively, and we were obviously in traffic, we have killed our tyres. Also, the aggression, driving angry tends to kill your tyres. So our tyres weren't looking the best at this stage, and maybe I should have went for the undercut on lap 6, put the hard tyres on, get some fresh tyres and push on the harder tyres. Now I hadn't driven the hard tyres at all yet with this car, so that was one reason why I wanted to utilise the medium tyre for as long as possible, and then get on the hard tyre and try and have some sort of advantage in terms of grip after. As you see there, Fire right behind this, he's already pitted, he's got his fresh tyres on, so he can go to the end of this race. I myself have to obviously pit now. So this lap we're going to go in the pits. You can see the tyres are starting to struggle as we go into the final chicane. Hitting the curb a little bit aggressively, nearly lost the rear, losing out on about half a second to maybe more there, as the car started to rotate on that corner. Into the pits and hard tyres on now for the final stint in this race. So now once we put these hard tyres on, the big question will be, where will we come out in this race? Obviously I decided to go for that extra lap, to try and give ourselves fresher tyres towards the end of the race. And you can see we've actually lost a few positions there. A lot of people going for that undercut. We're down into P8, but we should be able to catch that gap up. The Porsche obviously very strong in the race conditions, and obviously we've got the fresher tyres every lap to start gaining, and also they're starting to battle a bit up there. So maybe we can start catching up a bit on this lap and through the next few laps, and try and get ourselves back involved with that battle between P5, 6 and 7. As we skip ahead to the end of lap 9, start of lap 10, you can see we've actually started to catch the gap up. The laps before were fairly consistent driving, just driving the out lap and the next lap fairly cleanly. Actually did a solid lap on the hard tyres, which shows you that this strategy, we maybe should have pitted a little bit earlier, or 2 laps earlier, and gone for a really long stint on the hards, because we were back into the 1 minute 45, but now we're back into that traffic. You can see we're into the traffic of P5 and 6. Musto has received a penalty there at some point, which has moved himself down to P8, sorry, as we see a lot of battling going up in front of us there. You can see the Mercedes, IRacing obviously with the Audi, still got some tyre grip on that car. The Audi obviously a lot faster than probably the fastest car once the grip's there, but I expect the Audi to fade off a little bit in this race as we get through to the later stages in the laps. Obviously, if it all depends, if you're pushing like IRacing, I think he's going to have trouble with the tyre wear. However, if you look after your tyres, you can do a reasonable job with that Audi. We remember driving that at Suzuka and getting a solid result in the official season when it was really heavy tyre wear. So it's all about how smoothly you downshift with that Audi. Making sure your brake biases towards the front and being very cautious on your downshifts. As IRacing goes for that move, Aura sees it coming, brakes a little bit earlier, undercuts him and gets back up into P5 in that Mercedes. So a good job there by Aura, very good racecraft, saw the move coming from IRacing, was able to just counter it and get himself back up to P5. So the IRacing still in P6, myself in P7, and this is actually slowing us down quite badly. You can see we've got so much more pace. The hard tyres are still in pretty good condition, no real wear on them, but we're losing out a little bit over lap time as we go down the straight and over the start finishing line. You can see a little bit of a drop off on lap pace, a few tenths slower, nothing major there. As we go down the main straight, can we go for a move into the braking zone? We decided to back out of that. IRacing looked like he was going to go for a lunge into the braking zone, but Aura kept it on the brakes very late, held that inside line and still keeps the position as we try to find an angle. And just look how much extra grip we've got over the cars up ahead. This is really starting to hold us up. I wanted to really get some good laps in while we had fresh hard tyres on, but we're just at this stage just not able to do anything about it. You can see the Porsche so much better through the corners, a lot more grip, but just doesn't have the straight line speed to really be able to get an overtake done at this time when the car in front hasn't got when the car in front has got that slipstream. So we have a little look at replay camera just to show you just how close this racing is between myself and the 3 other cars involved with this battle. Also, we've got some other cars on slightly different strategies. We've got Rick in front of us and Fire in front of us on a 2-stop strategy, I think, going for something slightly different, putting doing 2 stints on the mediums and then a shorter stint on the hard at the end. It can work if you get yourself out of traffic. So yeah, for myself though, we really stuck now on this one-stop stint. We can't really do anything other than sticking it out now and trying to see if we can maybe get some of these positions back and get ourselves back into the top 5. As again, we're having a little look up the inside there, but again, this is a really hard place to make any sort of overtake. It's pretty much single file through here. If you go for a move, you risk giving other people and yourself quite a hefty penalty with the current system that is being run on this game. Obviously, rear contact doesn't seem to give any penalties to any driver. It's the side-on contacts which are overly aggressive, and they need to sort it out, because at the moment you can ram someone from behind and you don't get any sort of penalty, but side contact, a tiny little contact, a good racing, and you get the penalty. We saw this with Josetti in a previous race. There was literally no contact between us, tiniest of grazes. Josetti went up the inside and the game gave myself a 4-second penalty. So yeah, getting quite frustrated with the penalty system at the moment, but we're hoping that a patch will come out before the start of the official season, or at some point early on in the official season, to deal with the current penalty system, because it needs looking into, because I don't believe that you can run an official FIA season with this system that's being run now. But you can see the racing that's going on now. Really good, entertaining racing at the moment. 4 cars battling for this P5 position in this race. So far, really clean as well. Respectful racing. No one's done any overly aggressive moves. IRacing obviously went for that move up the inside, nearly made it work, but clever driving by Aura, put himself ahead. And what you can see now is that the Audi is starting to suffer with the tyres. The Mercedes looks like he's starting to build up a bit of a gap, getting himself into a rhythm. Obviously, Mercedes tyres will be much better than the Audis, and you can see that Audi's starting to slide around a bit on power, is starting to lose a bit of traction. And again, we're now going to have to try and see if we can find the way past the Audi R8 that definitely seems to be having some issues with the tyre wear in this race, coming to the end of the race. There's fire there into the pits, just up into from the lead into the pits, as well as Rick into the pits, going for that 2-stop strategy. That promotes Matty into P2 with the strategy starting on the hard tyre and then going for a long stint on the medium. It's a very good strategy by Matty there. As Fire coming out the pits, he's come out ahead, and Rick comes out of the pits right next to us there. We managed to jump Rick with that pit stop, and we've got 2 laps to go. He'll have fresh set of hard tyres on. We've got quite worn hard tyres, but they're not actually too bad at this phase. You can see the lap times have been pretty okay. They're fading off a little bit, but I think a lot of that is because we're stuck behind IRacing and the Audi that seems to be struggling a bit. You can see that he's not able to match Aura's pace at the moment, as we're now again just getting very close during the braking. This is really showing you the advantage the Porsche's got. We've got so much more grip on the inside. We're able to put the power down. We're going to try and go around the outside now to make a move, but no, IRacing brakes very late there. We'll try and cut back and get a better exit, but again, not able to do that. And this is quite frustrating, but again, it's good, very good racing to be involved with. At least we're ending this race with some clean racing, not like the start of the race, which was just chaotic. The end of this race is actually ending really well. You can see everyone driving quite respectful. No one's going for any rash dives. It's really clean racing. This is the type of racing you want to be involved with. It's good, clean defending by IRacing. The drivers behind are being respectful, as Rick there goes for a move on Musto, gets himself right up behind us now for the final lap. This is going to be very difficult. We're trying to attack IRacing, but we've now got Rick on the fresh set of hard tyres in that Mazda behind us, who is going to be very, very fast for this final lap. Can we manage to overtake IRacing before Rick gets a move on us? So into the final chicane, trying to get a solid exit. The Audi looking totally sketchy through there. We managed to get up the inside of him and put ourselves up into P5. Now we're going to give Rick this slipstream now. I was a little bit worried that if we gave Rick the slipstream for too long, that he would then be able to go round us with the fresher tyres. So I gave the slipstream back to the Audi R8. That might have been a mistake, as we then give the slipstream back to Rick, cover the inside, and IRacing goes very well on the brakes around the outside, almost drifting the car, and gets himself back up to P5. So a very good move by IRacing there. I actually didn't see that coming. I wish I would have braked a little bit later, but if we did, maybe we would have squeezed him out. It would have been very risky, but at least we've kept the racing nice and clean at this stage of the race. up into the next braking zone, braking nice and early, trying to look for a way past iRacing while trying to hold off Rick. Rick is on our left hand side. We're going to try and hold the inside, giving him space on the left, making sure that we don't cut off his line. Then we're going to try and hold the brakes as late as possible, giving Rick enough space on the left hand side. We saw this is the position where we got the penalty with Josetti. This time we get away with that, no real contact between myself and Rick. And now into the braking for the really fast chicane there. You can see just about holding it. Again, we're going side by side. This is brilliant driving to be involved with. You can see myself and Rick side by side, really fair driving, and we both come through all them corners side by side without any contact and without any penalty. So really respectful racing. However, Rick has now got that inside into the tight hairpin. He's going to take that position. Unfortunately for myself, we have to give up that position, and with that battling, that gave iRacing a little bit of a breather for P5. However, he has now got Rick all over the rear of him for the final few corners. This is going to be quite a dramatic end to this race. As you see Rick going a little bit wide there, kicking up the dirt as he's trying to push on to get himself into that top 5, as we also want to get into the top 5, trying to push through the final chicane, doing it pretty well there. We're going to get a nice solid exit. iRacing again suffering on the exit, but it's a drag race now to the finishing line. We're going to go down the right hand side. Can we get a position? No. Extremely close battle at the end there, but unfortunately we're going to come home in P7. So it could have been a P5. I think if we would have got past very early on, we could have battled for P4, but unfortunately we got held up in the traffic there. And this is all caused by the 6-second penalty. Without that, I think we'd have definitely been on for a podium, probably a P2 in the race at least. So unfortunately, not the result we wanted, but an enjoyable race at the end of the race, and we come away with points that don't really mean anything because we already had more points than that anyway. So nothing really gained, but at least we had a good fun race. I hope you enjoyed that race. Make sure you hit that like button if you enjoyed it, and hit that subscription button if you want to see more videos like this and more live streams. Thanks again for watching, everyone. We'll be back very soon.